Hello and welcome to BloombergQuint. You're watching The Fine Print. We are coming to you from the Bombay Chartered Accountants Society's premises here in Mumbai, where the BCAS is conducting a 3-day intense GST session. And we are here out to having a little Q&A session of our own. And joining me today is Chetan Shah and Sunil Gabarwala of the BCAS. And also from the industry side, I have with me Jaswant Hinduja, CFO of XL Entertainment, Cyrus Kambata, Executive Vice President of CDSL, and Asha Ghoshal, Group CFO of K Hospitality. Gentlemen, Asha, welcome to the show. I'll start with you, Chetan. There was some amount of good news that came over the weekend from the GST Council, and that was the deferment of the return filing for by 2 months. And there's a form GSTR-B that they have introduced, and that has to be filed on a self-declaration basis, and it will have the details of the supplies and output tax liability. How much of a relief that comes for industry?
You can say it is a relief for sure. You don't have to go into rigors of filing the GST and 1 and 2 right now. But it is just a deferment, I would say, that after 2 months, when the time that they have given, after 2 months they will have to still file the entire return and try and reconcile what they have already filed. If there are any shortcomings, then they will have to deposit the tax there. So the issue will remain that it is just a deferment, not a very, in that sense, not a big relief, but at least till the softwares and everything is in place, because all are struggling to get their IT systems in place. To that extent, it is a relief.
Okay. Sunil, we were talking about earlier that how would, the credit mechanism and the reconciliation will work since as a result of this deferment. Help me understand what happens to the input tax credit that businesses are supposed to get, because if this gets deferred and in the meantime my credit doesn't come, the working capital issues get even more compounded. Do you anticipate that problem arising?
No, Payaswini, actually there is no change in the working capital requirement, because the entire way the structure of the GST is, the credit has to be claimed on a self basis and the reconciliation follows after the claim of the credit. And
even after we get back to a normal routine of filing on a monthly basis and not this deferment. Okay.
So it is not a situation, because many people are afraid that without reconciliation I will not get credit. The way it works is, on the first day you are given a provisional credit, and you are expected to reconcile within a period of 2 months. If you are able to reconcile within the period of 2 months, life moves smoothly. If you are unable to reconcile, they take it back from you by way of a reversal. Okay. So in that sense, for people who are compliant and whose vendors are also compliant, there is not going to be a big challenge. Only cases where the vendors are not compliant, there is going to be a problem for the customers in claiming the credit.
Okay. Can you break it down for me, Sunil, that on 1st of July, once I get into the GST regime, till I think the first date of filing will be 6th, if I'm not mistaken, the first return form. What will I be doing in terms of processes per se?
Sure. So what happens is, from the 1st of July, the most important thing which is critical today is all the organizations, especially the retail organizations, have to be up and running with their point of sale systems. Meaning they should be in a position to immediately, on the midnight of 30th of June, be able to prepare what is known as a GST compliant invoices. It should calculate the correct GST calculations. It should be able to outreach and take the GST number of the customers. And these capabilities need to be there on 1st of July itself. Thereafter, for the month, they will keep on accumulating the output taxes which they have to pay. They can also keep on accumulating the credits which they are entitled to. At the end of the month, the tax team can just make a net summary of that and pay the tax along with this GSTR 3B which we are talking about. And in September, they will have to go with a detailed line level upload. By that time, they have to be ready, where their systems have to be ready, and their systems will have to be synchronized with the government systems which are still to come out on that process.
And hopefully the solutions that the ASPs will provide me tomorrow or are in the process of designing will capture all of this.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the basic expectation from the ASPs and the GSPs.
Okay, let me go across to one of them. Cyrus, you are one of the 34 GSPs that has been approved by the GSTN. I'm going to just cut to the chase. Where are you in terms of preparedness?
We've been registered in the first batch of the 34 GSPs that are given permission, and basically we are ready with the returns 1, 2 and 8 which have been published. Little changes that were come in will be implemented by the end of this week, and we'll be able to roll out and even start the registration by the end of the month.
Okay. How much of a sort of challenge was it for you? Because the return formats got finalized in the June 3rd meeting and got published later in the week. How much of a change did you have to make in your existing in your existing systems?
The change was pretty large, but since the software team is pretty big, we think we'll be able to manage it on time.
Okay, so some of the APIs, and the GSTN chairman told this to BloombergQuint, will be rolled out in the last week of June, somewhere around 28th of June. How will you incorporate that, and then the ASP incorporate that in the solutions that they will provide to businesses?
What comes out in 828 cannot be ready in the first. But as Mr. Gabawala just said, that basically the filing has to be done in September. So we'll be ready by September at least.
But none of this you will be able to test, or are you anticipating that the GSTN will conduct many more tests? Because from what I understood in the May testing phase, people found it difficult to upload the GSTR one, and it took Gorillon some 4-5 hours to upload one, and this was a very small scale testing that happened, and there are some billions of transactions. The GSTN is hoping that people will upload on its portal on a monthly basis. How are you going to be able to deal with that?
Basically, this testing that was delayed was some technical issue for 3 or 4 days with them. Subsequently, they have done away with that, and now the testing is working pretty fine. But of course, as you said, volumes are not there. So we have to just watch and see what happens when the actual volumes do come in. Because the volumes are going to come in at the last day only, majority of them.
Right. And I mean, that's the day then we'll be able to test the metal of the GSTN framework. Asha, let me bring you in the conversation. You represent the hospitality industry, both in terms of the rates, how they're going to impact your industry, and also in terms of the technology preparedness that we've been talking about. How ready do you think you are?
So, as Sunil mentioned, we are focusing right now on the point of sale, because that's what is important for us on the midnight of 30th June. So, as far as point of sales is concerned, as far as the rack structure is concerned, we are ready with the point of sale, and the other the accounting packages and the material management, we are yet to think through and roll out. So, since government has given us 2 months time, I think that will help us to do a bit.
Okay. In this preparation to get GST compliant, could you point out to me some of the specific areas that were challenging and continue to be a challenge for the industry?
Of course, hospitality, the liquor remains to be a big piece which is outside the GST regime. So, for us, the pain of the old regime and the new set of GST rules and the compliances continue. We will be continuing to file the VAT returns, and we have to file the GST returns as well. Our bill pattern will be one for VAT and one for GST. So, the liquor will be under a old method of billing, and the GST, the rest of the supplies will be under the new method of billing.
Okay. And in terms of rates, how is the F&B industry going to get impacted? Because from what I could understand, because of the fact that the packaged goods are in the 12% category and the unpackaged ones at 5%, do you foresee that it will disincentivize some of the retailers or some of the industry people to move to, or rather package their product as an unpackaged product?
Yeah, I feel industry will gradually evolve on this, but immediately maybe the people may move towards from the package to non-package to structure their taxes. But gradually I feel the system, once it is set, everything will be back on what it is today.
Okay. And let me get in Jaswant here. Jaswant, the entertainment industry has been crying foul because I'm not sure to what extent the Excel Entertainment gets impacted. Some of the cinema owners have been crying foul that their incidence of taxes go up, though they have revised the ticket rate for which one is an 18%, one would be 28%. How much of an impact from the rates front do you see on the industry?
For the industry, for the producers especially, we will see a lot of challenges in getting the input credits through the line, because we have a lot of vendors who are organized, URD, from associations to spot boys to suppliers. There are multiple supply chain. All of them needs to be getting registered for us to get a smooth flow of credits. That is one big challenge we are seeing. Also, when we go and shoot in different states, getting those credits a smooth flow will be a challenge. We have to either open branches over there or do a multiple state registrations, or appoint local line producers or local agencies to take care of that job.
Okay. Sunil, Chetan, do you want to weigh in on some of the challenges, especially in the entertainment industry, where so far they had what, one service tax registration?
One service tax registration and one VAT registration.
Right, and now they will have to take those state-wise registrations, right?
So Payaswini, this has been a large challenge which has been highlighted ever since the first draft law was presented, and the comfort of centralized registration which exists in service tax today is no longer available in GST. And the entire service industry, let it be any diverse industry, something like entertainment which just highlighted, or financial services, stockbroking outfits, who have been always under a single registration, today they will suddenly have to jump onto multiple registrations. And it's compounding the problems because there's also a concept called brand transfer of services. So what is told is, if one branch renders services to another branch, there will have to be a notional billing for it, and there will have to be a tax on it. Now this lends a lot of subjectivity, because unlike goods, where you can really track movement through the e-way bills and concepts like that, how are you going to really track services being rendered?
And also the valuation part of it, right?
And the valuation also. Right. So luckily they've given a saving grace by saying that the government, to start with, will accept the value which the organizations decide. That will not be questioned so long as the recipient unit is eligible for credit. That is a saving grace, but despite that, the fact remains is that there will be an onus to identify these brand transfers, there will be an onus to define a value, and then pay the tax and claim the credits. Now that's a very big onerous responsibility on many of the organizations, because that identification itself is many a times very, very challenging.
Okay, Jaswant, like you mentioned that some of these suppliers that you deal with are in the unorganized sector, and I guess one of the aims or ambitions of the GST regime is also to get people in the unorganized sector into the organized sector. Do you see that change when you talk to your suppliers?
Yeah, most of them are trying to learn and get into it, but still there will be a portion which will not be organized, where it will be billing will be URD basis, which will have to, it will increase the compliance of our compliance. Basically we have to pay reverse charge on that and then claim it back.
Okay, what's URD, if I can ask?
Unregistered dealers, there will be a lot of unregistered dealers who will not register but still bill us. For on those invoices we'll have to pay reverse charge and then claim it back from the government.
Okay,
so that will increase the compliance.
Okay. But are you sort of pushing your suppliers in to get GST to come into the fold of GST?
Yes, most of them we are pushing everybody to register and follow the law.
Okay, and I mean that brings down the compliance for you, right? Asha, what do you in terms of preparedness? You represent the brands such as Irish House, Copper Chimney, and you have a lot of branches or rather outlets at airports, right? Is the GST incidence on that in terms of preparation, in terms of rates, is any specific part challenging for you?
So yeah, particularly we also sell some of the MRP products which are moving from say 5%, 12% to 18%, whereas the MRP is constant. So the pricing policy will have to be redecided in the discussion with the vendors. That's one of the key pieces for at this point of time for us to address.
Okay. Sunil, Chetan, let me bring you in. They've also, they're going to do a little more rethink on this e-way bills concept, right? How will in the interim businesses function versus a regime versus an e-way bill regime? And does the existing system within the GST or rather the GST umbrella throw up any specific challenges?
So what has happened is the e-way bill was a concept which was brought in at a reasonably later stage of the entire GST development process, and therefore we find that the system's readiness on e-way bill is not there, and therefore the government has postponed the e-way bill requirement for a few months. But it's not been postponed in totality because some of the states were really pushing too hard to have the continuation of e-way bills. So the GST Council in their meeting yesterday has taken a decision that the states can individually decide how they want to continue their existing way bill and the permit requirements. Now that presents a large challenge for organizations, because while in the current regime there is this pain area of having the checkposts and the permits and the way bills, that pain continues, and therefore it's really not a very, very smooth ride into the GST regime. Till the time the consensus is developed on how e-way bill will move and the systems will be developed, each state will have its own nuances of e-way bill, and that basically gives a handle to the local authorities to at times push things to what they would feel is the right way.
What could have been an optimum solution in the interim?
I think the optimum solution could have been to have an element of trust, and this is one thing which I think Payaswini is somewhere we see missing in the entire system as of now. GST, if over a period of 1 year or 2 years, if we are able to bring in a trust between the tax collector and the tax gatherer, I think we would have really served the purpose. But if the element of mistrust which does exist today continues, that's something which is really a little bit of a challenging proposition. You know, we have so much of over verbiage. Just to give you an example, any organization, when the bank receipts in their books, they have to pay the GST on it. Now they have gone to the over regulation to say that if you have entered the transaction in your account on X date, and maybe if the bank credit is 1 or 2 days earlier, you should actually have paid the tax on that 1 or 2 days earlier, and therefore this presents a sort of, you know, so much of micromanagement, a reconciliation. Anytime there is an assessment, that officer is going to ask you, look, this is your bank statement, you have entered the transaction on this date, now please demonstrate that it was not in your bank statement 2 days before or 3 days before. Now, you know, that type of an over regulation perhaps was not required, because most organizations are anyways audited. And there's no reason for somebody to just delay entering for 1 or 2 days or 5 days or things like that.
Sure. Cyrus, do you have a little column called trust in the systems that you are creating? That Sunil pointed it out. I want to ask you that, you know, there are many and more solutions that people are offering in the market. And, you know, while the big companies will figure it out for themselves, for the smaller ones, how do they figure out? Because they've been working on, you know, accounting software so far. How do they figure out one solution over another? Because even switching those solutions that, say, for instance, I tried first in the first month, second in the other, it's going to be a challenge for those businesses. So if I'm sitting, say, in the Manish market here in Bombay, or a Crawford market, or, you know, on Hill Road or Linking Road, how do I figure out the best solution for my business?
Basically, a lot depends on how the accounting software is tuned for the GST. Basically, accounting package or the ERPs that they are using. For small people, it's a big challenge. So what we have done is, basically, we have come out with a converter where he can extract the data points from his system, map it with the GST and format, and once that is one-time matching is done, the automatic filing can happen with what he extracts in Excel or comma separator file, and it goes in. So there won't be a problem for them, even if the back office software, the accounting software is not fine-tuned for the GST.
Okay, the GST chairman also spoke about an offline tool that, you know, the network is going to offer, and he mentioned that, you know, somebody who doesn't have a voluminous invoice uploading, who doesn't want to do the voluminous exercise uploading exercise, they can opt for that offline tool. How will this offline tool work? And I mean, should small businesses then just go for that?
Small businesses who have very small number of invoices can use this offline tool where they can log in and actually enter the invoices one by one. Okay. That facility they are provided, but they don't provide the matching facility and the other facilities which the ASP would normally provide. So then they will have to go in for auto matching, etc., which would be more cumbersome.
Oh, so offline tool, in your opinion, is going to be more cumbersome. Okay. Chetan, one last question for you. The BCAS has made representations to the Prime Minister's office highlighting some of the industry-specific issues. Could you take me through one or two of the top issues that runs across industries?
It's not even one or two issues. There are various issues, especially the unpreparedness of the small sectors, the SMEs. For example, even the chartered accountants, for that matter, have to still learn so many things, so many aspects of the GST, and then they will be able to impart the training to their clients. So that is one aspect. The second aspect is that, as he rightly said, the preparedness of the softwares are still not there. People are still struggling that how is going to happen, and the SME sector is such a sector that they are sometimes dependent on part-time accountants. So how do they really come into because everything is IT driven. If you are not IT savvy, it has become a biggest problem. Third issue is that the connectivity. India is not totally connected, you know, from the internet side. So how do we really do all those issues? The fourth issue that we are seeing is that the smaller industries may just vanish because, as he said, that we are pushing people to go for GST registration and the URDs, and some URDs may just not want to really do it. They don't have the wherewithal to do it. So those are the ones who will be actually not been doing any business. So they may be out of business. So there are various issues, and unpreparedness is one of the biggest issue, where we said that yes, GST is an excellent act to happen to India at any point in time, but it should have been a little bit deferred But we are for GST for sure. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, but we are known for our last minute preparedness and the burning the midnight oil, and I hope that most businesses, small and big, get ready on 30th of June. Gentlemen, Asha, thank you for joining me on the GST countdown today, and thank you so much for watching.